So Craig, it's nice to see you here. And could you tell us what is the key to GSMA's success?
Well, I think the key to it is that it's the world's largest, most cohesive set of mobile operators in the world. Every operator in the world, with the exception of maybe 6 or 7 who are CDMA companies, are part of the GSMA. And soon the CDMA companies are joining the GSMA. So in representing every mobile operator in the world, when we get together, we can decide issues and move forward. So I would say that the key to success is getting everybody around the table to discuss strategic and commercial issues.
And how do you comment this year's GSMA Macau event?
Highly successful. If I define success as how many people showed up, how many exhibitors were here, and most importantly, how many CEOs of leading companies. For example, we had the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of China Mobile, Wang Junzhou. We had the Chairman and CEO of China Unicom, Zhang Xiaobing. And we had many senior executives from both of those companies. We had very senior executives from Huawei, ZTE. So just within China, our conference attracted probably the most senior executives ever in the same conference. Adding to that, we had global leaders like the CEO of NTT Docomo, Japan's #1 company. We had CEOs from another 10 to 20 companies from around the world. That's what makes our conference successful.
And why do you choose Macau and Barcelona to hold your event?
Well, Barcelona was a location in Europe that we chose about 3 years ago. We were originally in Cannes, France, but we had become such a large conference. At that time, about 25,000 people. Once we moved to Barcelona, which was much bigger, we grew to 50 to 55,000. So the Barcelona Congress or conference is now known in the whole world as the #1 telecom conference. We set up the Asia Congress a few years ago thinking that we could try and duplicate that success for Asia. And over the last 2 years we've been here in Macau and it's been very successful.
And how does your team make your finance and your marketing so successful?
Well,
for your event?
We're not a corporation in the classic sense of we're not a business. The GSMA is a non-profit trade association. But since we need lots of money to work on all kinds of projects like how do we make mobile money payment programs work? How do we have health programs or alternative energy programs, green programs like China Mobile is doing in many markets of the world? How do we distribute those programs all over the world? It takes money. So the Barcelona and Asia Congress supply the money to run a staff of over 150 people that are located in London, Atlanta, in the United States, and our Hong Kong office. So it's very essential that we do raise this money from the fees from conferences and membership fees for GSMA.
But how about the marketing?
Well, the marketing is really not so important because we are not like PTAC in Beijing that has a big conference where anybody can come, so they can have 100,000 people. But it can be anybody walking in to look at the exhibits. For the GSMA Congress in Barcelona and in Asia, it is only for industry people. And it's actually a bit expensive to come inside. So we don't market in the sense to consumers. We only market to the decision makers and the leaders of our own industry.
So what's your opinion on the impact of the financial crisis on the Asia telecom market?
Good question. It's a very serious downturn in the economy worldwide. I think for those of us who live here in Asia, we will probably be slightly better off economically than if you're in North America or in Europe. In terms specifically of the telecoms industry, we spend close to a 150 billion US dollars a year in capital and capex for our infrastructure. We think that will continue. So our industry is one of the solutions to many of the country's problems who are having these economic problems. And if we look specifically at China, for example, even if 3G doesn't come out in the next 6 months, the amount of money being spent to expand 2G networks is still very, very large. That creates it's a job creation factor. So it's a very positive thing. Now, on top of that, I think there will be 3G licenses granted very soon. And so China Telecom will be upgrading its network. China Mobile is currently building TD-SCDMA, and China Unicom will build HSPA 3G networks. So when you combine that, there'll be a tremendous amount of stimulation of the Chinese economy just based upon the mobile industry.
On the first day of the event, you public question for Mr. Chang Xiaobing of China Unicom about the release time of 3G licensing in China.
Yes.
So I just wonder, can you, what's your opinion on the 3G license time?
Chang Xiaobing was very diplomatic, and he did not want to commit himself to predicting. But I'm in a different position, so I'm happy to predict. I think that the licenses will be granted sometime in the next 3 to 4 months. But in a way that's no longer important, because now it's very clear all 3 companies will go 3G. We already know what technology they'll use. And if you ask China Telecom, they're already doing tenders and spending money ready for 3G. China Mobile is already spending money and building 3G TD-SCDMA. And China Unicom is currently in the final stage of tendering with the large manufacturers in the world. So it's very clear it's happening. It's actually going to be introduced quite soon. The official licensing almost becomes unimportant, whether it takes another month or 3 months. The prediction is by early fall next year, let's say around the September period, likely all 3 companies will have 3G actually operating in China. Not in every city, but in a number of major cities.
You mean in the next 2 months?
No, September 2009. You will actually be able to buy 3G service from all 3 companies. So even if the licenses take still another 6 months, the other operators know they're going to get it. They know which technology they're getting, so they're already constructing.
So could you help me understand why do you say LTE in the future of 3G?
Because we believe that based upon traffic demand, meaning how often people use our services for voice and for data, and now the third part will be something called mobile broadband, access to the internet through your wireless device. Because of that demand and because of the speed, not just capacity, but speed, that LTE is the ultimate solution for the consumer to have desktop capability on a wireless device. And so LTE will be the eventual answer. And using LTE, all countries of the world and all operators of the world will adopt it. So we will have an absolutely common standard for every country in the world. We in the GSMA represent 86% of the population of the world, or subscribers of the world. But with LTE, ultimately GSMA will have 100% representation. All subscribers will be on LTE over the next 5 to 7 years.
And what's your future? What's your plan to develop GSMA and GSMA event in the future?
Well, GSMA as a trade association will continue to be active throughout the world on public policy issues, strategic and commercial issues. The conference business is going to be a very tough business the next 2 years because of the world economy. But again, because Barcelona is considered the best conference in the world and the Asia Congress continues to grow, we're comfortable that even over the next 2 years, we'll be in good shape. I have no doubt that GSMA will remain the #1 mobile phone trade association in the world, by far.
So finally, do you have any wishes for GSMA in next year?
Just to continue what we started 7 years ago when I became chairman. It's just to continue a strong presence throughout the world, but in particular a strong presence here in China and in Asia.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Snake. Thank
Nice
you
to
very
meet
much.
you.
Nice to see you again.